Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I'm doing a video all about mummy things, so it's a mummy tag video. So it's basically questions about what I found most useful, things I didn't find useful, the most awkward and stressful situations I've been in, and yeah, just questions like that basically. So let's get started. The first one is my favourite mum hack. This question took me so long to figure out the answer because there's so many that I love and use. So I decided to go with the one that I use the most and for the longest, which is hooded towels. As soon as my daughter could walk, she had like a hooded, you know, kind of like a swimming towel. She had one of those because even though the hooded ones that are in the corner and they wrap the baby up in, they're absolutely fine for when they're a baby, but when they want to be up, crawling or walking or running about, I don't like wrapping them in a towel and making them stand there. My kids are very energetic and they love to run about. So ever since Ava was about that age and Andrew was he was around about 3 to 4, he had one. Actually, he probably had one a little bit younger. So as soon as he got out of the bath, just straight over his head, big towel with a hood on, and then they could just run around and do what they want for a minute. So I don't have to like sit there and rub them down and dry them. They can actually like run around the house to dry themselves with this towel on. And I don't feel bad that they're going to be cold because obviously they're not wearing a towel, because that's what they tend to do. They used to like drop the towels and leg it and then be cold. So this way they still get warm and they get dry quick as well, and I don't have to worry about them. Question number 2 is, what was the most embarrassing moment with my children? Well, this is when my son was very, very young. He was about, I'd say, 4 months old. We was shopping in Matalan, and back then they did, obviously that was like 6 years ago, they did like little photo shoot things in Matalan, not where they were like permanently there. It was like a temporary stand where they'd go in and ask to take pictures of your child and say, well, these are the pictures, you can pay or whatever, just to like promote the company and whatnot. So I thought, why not? He's 4 months old, it's my first baby, I've not had any professional pictures of him done, so I decided to do it. And yeah, he had a few on obviously with his clothes. We didn't have any spare clothes because it weren't planned, so he had a few like with different things around. Like he had one with Spell Andrew out with building blocks, and then he had one with like headphones on, and obviously he had a couple with just in his nappy. So I stripped him down, put him just in his nappy, and sat him down to obviously have his picture been taken. When it all had been done, I picked him up, and obviously I picked him up on my hip so his legs were like around me, and he weed. And because his legs were open, he went through his nappy all the way down my top and everywhere. And I was with this woman talking to her, and I was like, just ignore it, just ignore it. And then I had to finish my shop at Matalan, go and pay with, I was so grateful though I had a coat, so I kind of like hid it with my coat afterwards, but I was like, I can't believe I'm covered in my son's wee, and I've got to then now just finish my shopping and go and pay. And yeah, no one really noticed, but it was embarrassing for me because I was like, I'm covered in my child's wee, and this is gross. I think it's because it's the first situation that it actually happened, that I was like properly covered in wee in public. Obviously as a boy, if you've had a boy before, if you've got a boy, you would understand. But it is, as soon as like they feel air on their bits, they want to wee everywhere. So yes, be warned that if you have a little boy, cover their bits with a baby wipe when you change their bums so they don't wet everywhere, because that's the best tip. That could be down as one of my hacks, but you know, not really publicised that one yet to say that it's a useful hack. Question number 3 is, what part of the day I like the most? And it must be the night time, not when they go to bed, because obviously it's not, that part is nice, but the part that I enjoy with my children most is before they go to bed. So it's more of like evening, so after dinner we can sit down and we cuddle and watch TV, and then obviously then we're going to have a bath, and then we have the telly off and we come downstairs and we can still cuddle or play puzzles or just talk. And I like that both of my kids are together and we're playing, but we're not using technology. Obviously technology is a big thing at the moment and my kids are absolutely obsessed with it. So it's nice that at the end of the day we get a couple of hours where we can sit, cuddle and talk, but then, because my son's not allowed to go back up, well, he's allowed to go back upstairs, but he's not allowed to go back on his Xbox and his computer. after dinner. As soon as dinner's ready, he has to turn it off and come downstairs. So yeah, it's the time where we all get to spend together in the living room, either watching TV for a little bit, and then like I said, before bed we play puzzles and stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know, it feels like I'm spending more quality time with them when we're more engaged together. So no TV, no computers, iPads, nothing, we're just together. And I really enjoy that moment. Question 4 is, what part of the day do I like the least? I would say the morning on a school run. If it's the weekend, I really like the mornings because we can just sit and chill and watch TV and have like a big breakfast. But when it's the school run, I find it quite stressful. I'm one of those that are like routine based, plus I've got quite a lot of anxiety, and then I don't like being late. So my anxiety gets worse when I think we're getting late, even though we don't usually get late. We're never really late for school, but it's one of those where I kind of feel very rushed. So I'm not the best in the mornings when we're trying to go and get out of the door. And the kids aren't the best in the mornings either. They get very, very distracted easily. So when I'm like, get changed, and then I quickly go upstairs to do my hair and makeup, come downstairs 10 minutes later and they're still not changed. Or they're running around in their underwear because the TV's distracted them, or if they've not got the TV, they've distracted each other. So yes, it can be a very crazy morning. So it would be the mornings for me. If we're going anywhere and we can kind of leave the house a little bit earlier, so more like 10 o'clock than 8 o'clock, I find that a little bit better because it's more of a slower like start to the day. But then when we have to leave the house by 8, well, 8:15, I feel a bit rushed. I feel like I forgot things even though I haven't. Or I sometimes do forget things. I have to have everything written down on my calendar, so that's probably like the worst part of the day that I don't enjoy the most, just because it stresses me out. Question number 5 is the worst thing someone said to me when I was pregnant. This statement, right, at this point, it was meant to offend me, and it was by a family member. Not a close family member, but a family member. And it was meant to be, it was my first pregnancy, so obviously it was with Lucas, who was stillborn. So I was only 19 at the time, and I think because he's quite, this person is, I'd say quite judgmental. He said something that was not right, but in the same time, it doesn't matter if it was. He said to me, are you going to quit your job now and go on benefits? Which is fine if you want to do that, but I found that very like judgmental of him, thinking I'm 19, I do work, I finished all my education, I was working 18 hours a week, obviously I found out I was pregnant, and I didn't quit my job. I didn't want to quit my job because I was only working 18 hours a week, and I knew that I'd be able to balance work and a child because I had enough people around me to watch him whilst I went to work. But obviously then he was stillborn, and then with my son Andrew, I did the same thing. I was working with him too, and then had to leave because of health issues. But yeah, I found that very offensive, thinking he's only said this because I'm 19, and he expected me to basically like, yeah, which like I said, it doesn't matter if you are like this, if you did want to leave work as soon as you got pregnant, because that's great. I really like now that I am a stay-at-home mum and I work around my children's like routines and schooling, and I absolutely love that. But it was just the fact that he meant it in a very judgmental and harsh way. He didn't mean it in a nice way. So yeah, that was probably the worst thing. I think after that it played on my mind a lot, and I was like, what are you trying to say? He's, like I said, he's a very judgmental person anyway, but that was probably the worst and the most hurtful thing that I can remember that someone said to me when I was pregnant. Question number 6 is the baby name that I loved but we didn't agree on. And with Andrew, it is very simple to choose his name. My first son Lucas, it wasn't very simple, but I can't really remember the process of picking his name out. But with my son Andrew, his granddad's name, my husband's dad, is called Andrew, and my husband's middle name is also Andrew. And because obviously we lost our first, a baby, we wanted his name to mean something. we already used Alan, which was my granddad's name and my husband's granddad's name, so we used that in my first son's name, so his name was Lucas Allen. We didn't feel like we could replace that. We didn't want then Andrew to be called Andrew Allen, because our first baby already had Alan. Because he was stillborn and obviously not here, that we can then give his name to somebody else, if that makes sense, or even his middle name to somebody else. So with my son, his name is Andrew Lucas. So his first name he got from his granddad, and his middle name obviously also from his dad, but then Lucas is his brother's name. So we didn't choose Lucas to kind of like replace. We choose Lucas so he knows that he is named after his big brother that's not here no more, just so it can be special to him as well. Yes, with Ava it was very difficult to agree on a name, because I don't know why, but I know my first is Lucas and it's Andrew and now Ava, but I kind of wanted to go with the A. I loved a lot of names that started with A, but my favourite two, my favourite one was Alyssa. I loved Alyssa, and then my next one was Ali, but I thought if I named her Alyssa, her nickname could be Ali, because I wanted like A-double-L-Y or A-L-Y, which is the same similar way that obviously Alyssa's spelled. I really liked that name, but it was one of those names that he knew somebody from school that had that name, and obviously every time that I said that name it reminded of them, and it's the same with me. Certain people, if I chose a name, it reminds me of them. So that one reminded him of someone at school that I didn't like very much, so we went with Ava. Yeah, I don't know how we came up. I think I just searched A names and that one popped up, and it's the one we both agreed on. So yeah, we didn't agree on Alyssa or Ali. That was my favourite girl's name. Question number 7 is, do I co-sleep? No, I don't co-sleep. Saying that, I did let my daughter in my bed last night, but that wasn't the same thing. I don't let the kids in my bed unless it's early in the morning. Sometimes they have a thing about waking up at ridiculous times in the morning, so like 4:30, when they don't really want to go back to bed for another 2 hours, but they also are still tired. So what I tend to do is be like, okay, come in bed with mummy for a bit, and we cuddle. So we either put the TV on, so they've got the chance there to be up but also sleep. They tend to fall asleep like Ava did last night, but it just meant then that I'd give them the opportunity to go back to sleep, so when they go to school they're not like completely knackered and drained because they woke up extremely early in the morning. Ava was 3 o'clock, she woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, I wasn't getting up at that time. So it took me ages to try and settle her in her own bed. She was having none of it, and then she was crying for random things. So I was like, well, let's just get in my bed for a bit. So we don't co-sleep, but I know that's kind of like contradicting myself. We don't co-sleep, so I don't really let them in my bed to sleep at night time. But if they wake up very early, especially Ava, where it is about like that time, 4 o'clock or so, I do allow her in my bed for that last couple of hours, just because if she doesn't, then I'd have to get up and go downstairs, and she doesn't get the opportunity to sleep, and neither do I. Tea break. How cute is this mug? My kids picked it out for Christmas. Question number 8, something I've bought but I've never used. This one was quite difficult for me to think of because I can't really remember. My memory is terrible, so I only remember something either if it meant so much or it was really hurtful. They're the 10 main things that I tend to remember. There is one thing that I will say that I thought I needed, but then it turned out that I didn't really need it. A couple of things, and the main one was talcum powder. Obviously, being a new mom with my son, I thought I'd need talcum powder, so I bought talcum powder and I did used to use it on him. But we all suffer from dry skin and eczema, I suffer from psoriasis, and my daughter has really bad scalp. So I was like buying it, tapping it on them, and then there was like, the doctor's like, don't use talcum powder because you don't want to dry the skin out even more, and that's what talcum powder is for, it's to dry them. So yeah, I got told not to use it, so I bought it and never used it, and I probably bought a couple of like bottles or tubs or whatever of it, and I'd only use the tiniest amounts. So I knew with my daughter not to get it because it was easier for me to just to tap her dry, and then with a towel. and then put some cream on top, because obviously they have really dry skin, so I have to do that. So I use medicated cream for both of them for their eczema and dry skin. And yeah, so I don't use talcum powder, never did. Didn't see the point, since after using it a couple of times with Androme, got told not to. So yeah, that's probably one thing that I bought and I don't really use at all. The other one is, I don't know, the other one I did use a couple of times, but then I thought there's no point in this. It's baby shoes. I went crazy with baby shoes and bought them loads of baby shoes, and then they just pulled them off. With Ava it was a little bit easier because you could buy like the sock shoes where it kind of looked like shoes but then it had a long sock. They were okay because she didn't knock them off. But yeah, it was just easier not to put shoes on them, because either they kick the feet so it took forever to put them on, or afterwards they just kick the feet and they fall off. So baby shoes. So question 9 is the must-haves in a hospital bag. Now, I learned I had C-sections with all of them, and obviously my first baby, obviously he was stillborn and we was on holiday when he was born. So obviously I didn't even have a hospital bag packed for him, let alone taking it on holiday with me. So that one was very, I learned what I needed. My advice and my top one thing to have is disposable underwear. You need big knickers anyway, because the pads that you use are ginormous and you think, how am I going to use those? They're like this thick, but you need them. You do, because you bleed a lot. After you've had a baby, I think you bleed up to 6 weeks after. Because I had a C-section, it weren't so bad, because when they kind of like suck all the water out of you, they also suck a lot of the blood out. But with my first son, because they didn't really do that, and I was basically suffering from blood clots and bleeding, I bled really, really, really bad with him, and I had normal like pads, and I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a puddle of blood, and it was horrible, especially because I was in a hotel. So yes, the first one would be disposable underwear. So you don't buy like underwear that you're never going to wear again, and it more than likely will get ruined. So yeah, disposable underwear. If not, then cheap black underwear. The good thing I liked about it as well is the disposable underwear is quite high-waisted, and the scar obviously is quite low, and if you wore normal underwear the cotton would cover it, so it wouldn't be able to breathe. Disposable underwear is breathable, so it's like a really thin, it's kind of like a nappy material, you know, the bits where you kind of like you pull it around and it goes around, that kind of stretchy bit there. It's made of like that, a very thin durable material. Because it's quite high, it means my C-section scar was covered, but it would still be able to breathe because of the material used. The next one that I suggest as well is lotion. I was with my daughter, I was in hospital for 5 days before I had her, 5 days after I had her. Obviously I suffered from bad dry skin anyway, but it got to the point where I was in agony all the way up here, because obviously breastfeeding her, obviously I'd rub my arm against myself and on the blanket, and because it was quite warm and dry and sticky, this whole section was red raw and very, very sore, and it was just down to the fact that it was so dry in there. And yeah, my lips and my face was the same, but I wasn't really worried about the way I looked, but my arm was really painful because it kept rubbing, and they ended up getting the doctor in at some point to have a look at it, and it just says you just need to put baby oil or a really strong lotion on it just to kind of like moisturize it a bit, because it was like chafing on my arm, but it weren't chafing on me all the time, it was on the blanket and obviously picking her up, and it was quite painful for that. So yeah, lotion. So I had baby oil and I just kept putting that on all the time, or even like baby lotion or anything like that. Obviously you don't use it on the baby, but you need it for yourself because it is so dry in there. So even things like lip balms as well, if you suffer from dry lips, I did pack that in my hospital bag, just not my lotion, and then my mum had to bring me some lotion over at some point because it was just so painful on my arm. So yes, the next thing I suggest as well is lots and lots of baby clothes. You think, right, when your baby's born, you just probably pack an outfit to them sleep in and an outfit to go home in, but it doesn't always work out that way. They sometimes might need to stay in, you might need to stay in, or what tends to happen is they pee all over their clothes. Yeah, they pee all over them. You're getting them dressed, getting them changed, change the nappy, because I used to change nappy as soon as I finished feeding. I used to feed her, wind her, change the nappy, yes. And most of the time she ended up either throwing up all over her clothes or weeing in them, and I'd need new clothes all the time. I still didn't pack enough clothes. I packed so many clothes and they still had to go home with my husband and be washed and then be brought back for me. So yeah, loads of baby clothes. And also as well, even though you have a rough idea of how big your baby might be, you don't exactly know. So I always packed, I mean, I knew Ava would be quite small anyway. None of them was in not 3-year-old when they were born, because both of them was very, very small. But with Andrew, I did buy newborn clothes, only put newborn clothes in, and they were too big for him. I needed to then buy him small baby clothes because they were £6.12. So yeah, newborn, they fit in probably after a couple of weeks, after a few weeks old. I'd say between 2 to 5 weeks old, they fitted in within that time. So I did need to buy just some smaller, like sleep suits and stuff, because they were a little bit too big for him. But with my daughter, I knew she was going to be small. I knew she was going to be small because my son was small, but I didn't want to risk if she was big. So I packed like small baby, tiny baby clothes, and then newborn as well. And even the tiny baby clothes was too big for her, because she was only 5'7" when she was born. So yeah, but don't just pack extra clothes for them to need it. Pack extra clothes because you might have a big baby or you might have a small baby. You never know. So always pack. I'd pack. Obviously I knew what size my baby was going to be roughly because of previous babies. So I knew that more than likely she would be in a tiny baby, but I packed newborn just in case. But if I was you, pack a couple of tiny baby things, even if they may not wear them. I bought second-hand tiny baby clothes in case she didn't need to wear them, but obviously she did. So I didn't feel like I was wasting my money. I just went on like Facebook pages and bought like black bags full of tiny baby clothes that were obviously for girls, and just did it that way. And then I would have packed newborn and 0 to 3 just in case the size of your baby is a bit bigger or smaller than you expect. Question 10 is if you're a routine mum or like a go with the flow mum. With me, I think it just depends. When it comes to like certain things, I'd say more routine stuff, then I'm going to be more routine. So for example, the school days. So during the week when we have got school, we are routined. We have a routine of what we do before, we have a routine of what we do after, and then at night time. We stick to a nighttime routine all the time, unless they stay up a little bit later than normal in the holidays or the weekend. Ava always sticks to the same routine at night time. Her bedtime might increase maybe half an hour. She might go to bed half an hour later than what she usually does, but she can't. She's one of those that will tell you when she's tired, but then when she goes to bed she fights it. So but with Andrew, sometimes his routine can change depending if we've got sleepovers, if it's late games nights and stuff. They kind of interfere a bit with the sleep, the nighttime routine a little bit, not a lot, but yeah, with routines, I prefer routines. But then at the weekends or during the holidays, I'm more of a go with it, like go with the flow. I like very slow, because I get very stressed at school time. I like very slow, casual getting ready and doing things. Or sometimes I have PJ days. I love PJ days. So yeah, I'm go with the flow usually on the holidays, unless we have something planned. But then we still kind of go with the flow, but we still do similar things as like our school morning routine. So I'm a bit of both, but I prefer my routines. Question number 11 was, what type of labour did I have and what pain like medication I did, pain relief I used. This is a bit of a tough one for me. I did go into labour once, and that was with my first baby. Like I said, we was on holiday. That's why we had him early, because I went into labour early at 25 weeks and we was, like I said, on holiday, and I gave birth on holiday. I thought my stomach was bothering me because of like getting used to the food there. So yeah, I thought it was that, and then it started making me sick. So I was throwing up from the pain, and then I was like, right, this pain's not right. So yeah, it was painful, but I think because of so much going off and because of the amount of shock that I was in, I didn't have any pain medication at all. So when I got to the hospital, I was fully dilated and I was wanting to push, but he was stuck on my hip. So when I was pushing, it was my waters that were coming out, not him. And yeah, so I had no pain relief with my first son. whatsoever, but that was the only labour I had. I had to eventually have him from C-section because turning him didn't work, so I had C-section, and then I had C-section with my son and my daughter. So yeah, my pain relief was I was numb from here down, from my boobs down. Question number 12 is, have I been mum shamed? Probably, but I can't remember it, so that's fine with me. There's probably many times that I have been told, you can't do that, you can't do this, or you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way, and there is one person in particular that I know that does that to me a lot. But I can't remember what they said. I can't remember them, so that's fine with me. Question 13 is my biggest challenge as a mum. I'd go through a couple of them, but I'll go through my main one in a second. I had postnatal depression with my son. Obviously, losing my first son was hard, and then I think having an Andrew, I built up a wall. So I had postnatal depression with him, and I was not myself. I mean, I had conversations with my family recently that they've told me that you was not yourself, and the things I actually said and did, and I was like, I didn't do that. But they're like, you did say that. And I was like, oh. So yeah, I was not myself. I was very snappy and moody all the time, and I just built up a barrier because I thought, because I lost my first son Lucas, I thought I'd lose Andrew. So they said that I built up a wall to protect myself, so if I did lose him, obviously that I protected myself a bit. But then obviously didn't. It was very hard for me to build a relationship and a bond with him. So I had counselling. Parent now to older children, obviously they're almost 7 and 4. It is a bit difficult sometimes, and I'm probably still going through some difficult days, but it's not difficult as in, I don't really know how to explain it. It's not difficult as in it's hard and it's stressful, but I suppose it is hard, but the struggles that I have now as they're a little bit older is them hurting. Obviously my son's going through a lot of things at the minute with assessments and all that stuff, and the one thing that probably hurt the most, and it's really hard to talk about it, I had to talk about it the other day at this group thing, it was, when my son was 5, he told me that he wanted to die, and I think hearing that from a 5-year-old is very hard. Oh, I don't want to cry. When I say it now to people that he's almost 7 and he said that he didn't want to die and he didn't want to live, it seems easier, but then when I tell them that he actually said it when he was 5, it's so hard. And it was so hard to kind of deal with as well, because at this point I think it was like later on in the 5s, like at the minute he's almost 7, and it's been almost, I'd say 18-20 months for the process of him to get referred, because it does take a long time. And he said it when he was, I'd probably say 5, almost 6, but he was already getting the step for him to get referral was already going through. And me basically telling his teacher that I said that, he basically said he wanted to kill himself, and then obviously I had to tell his doctor, his paediatrician. It's like you don't want your child to ever see that, but being so little and like the whole life and saying that they want to die, it's hurtful. But I know now that he did get referred to mental health, for children's mental health, which is CAMHS, and they basically said to me that he might have said it, because he obviously is going through the assessment and stuff, that he might have said it just as a coping mechanism, that he didn't want to die, that he just wanted it to go away. And I understand that, because I've gone through anxiety and depression and hard times, and everyone used to think I was crazy when I said this, but I used to say I wish I could jump out my window. Not to like hurt myself or not to kill myself, but basically I just wanted to be put to sleep. I just wanted to sleep, then everything around me fixes itself, and then I'd wake up and everything would be better. That's the way that I wanted it to happen. So when I had a bad situation, that's how I'd feel. So I kind of understand the way that he's saying it and the way that he means, because I kind of used to say something similar. But yeah, I understand that he doesn't technically want to kill himself. He just basically can't deal with the situation and wants it to disappear. So he wants to I don't know, be removed from the situation until it's better. So I do get that. But yeah, that was very hard for me to deal with. The best advice I can give to a mum, I want to give advice to a new mum because I think this can be very stressful and overwhelming, is your birth plan. Plan your birth plan it the way you want to plan, but just keep in mind it may not go that way. Because I think that's the biggest thing, when you wanting it to go your way and you've all this plan figured out, and then something happens that either you need to be put on medication to push the labour through more because it's not going on as fast as you want it, or you can't have a water birth, or you end up having a C-section. Just keep in mind that it can change, and it doesn't matter how your baby gets brought into the world as long as they are safe and as long as they are healthy. So if you didn't want a C-section, it doesn't matter. As long as that baby is born healthy, that's the main thing. The end result is the main thing. I didn't want a C-section. I didn't want any pain relief. I wanted a water birth. That did not happen. Obviously I went through first labour with no pain relief, but I didn't get a water birth, and then I wasn't allowed a water birth for my second baby. C-section, and then C-section with Ava. So yeah, I didn't get to choose any of them. I got to choose, obviously I knew I was having a C-section, so that made it a little bit clearer in my mind. But my first, even though you have a plan, just give it room for change if it needs to change. And if the doctors are giving you advice that they suggest you do this and change it ever so slightly whilst you're in labour, just do it. If it's best for you, best for your baby. Like I said, the end result is the most important. As long as your baby's here and as long as your baby's healthy, it doesn't matter how you give birth to them. Whether you used forceps, whether you had a C-section, whether you had pain meds, anything, it doesn't matter as long as they are safe and well. And so you're safe and well as well. Question number 15 is mum crush. Like YouTubers and things like that. I follow quite a few mums, but I have two in particular that I absolutely love. And that is Emily Norris, who is the one that came up with this tag, and the second one is Rebecca Meldrum, which is Mrs. Meldrum's channel. I love them both. I think the way the parenting is very realistic. Sometimes obviously they express the difficult times and obviously they're good times. I think that's what I like best. I like something that could be relatable, but plus I kind of understand the parenting styles and things, and yeah, that's probably like the two that I absolutely love. So yes, if you're not already, go follow them. Like I said, it's Emily Norris and Mrs. Meldrum. But yeah, that's 15 questions. So that's the questions all done. I'm not going to tag anybody. I'm just going to say, if you want to do this video, tag yourself. Yeah, if you're wanting to do this tag, feel free and feel welcome to do it. If you enjoyed the video, don't get... I can't speak today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're new. Like I said, I'm up 2 and I upload 4 times a week on a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and a Saturday at 7 PM. And also don't forget to press that bell to get notified of when I upload. But I hope you have an amazing rest of the day and I will see you all soon. Bye!